So Trump has secured the delegates he needs to clinch the nomination at the GOP National Convention, as Hillary Clinton finishes a tough week with the release of a highly critical report on her private email use. She still faces a challenge from Bernie Sanders. That is keeping her from focusing on Donald Trump. Joining us now from Austin, Texas, Karl Rove, former senior advisor and deputy chief of staff to President George W. Bush and a Fox News contributor. Karl, you pegged it. For those who didn't see it earlier in the week, you wrote a piece for FoxNews.com with this headline: Why Trump is going to have a very good week, Hillary another bad one. You went on to say in there that Trump's lead in the Fox News and Washington Post ABC polls, as well as his improvement in all 4 polls, came from doing better with independents. They will be even more volatile and susceptible to change than normal, and they could move to Clinton as the Democratic contest draws to an end. So a good week for him thus far, but he's somewhat on the bubble. Yeah,
look, he's got challenges ahead. I mean, I wrote that last time. I do this now every Sunday night, Monday morning for FoxNews.com, sort of summarize the previous week and suggest what the next week might bring. And I thought he'd have a good week because this process of consolidation of Republicans falling in behind their nominee, in those 4 polls from the previous week, he had between 83 and 86% of Republicans. That was up from somewhere in the 60s to low 70s a month to 6 weeks before. So he's consolidating the Republicans, but he's got some room to grow yet. He's got to get to, no Republican has ever been elected president in a 2-way race without having between 91 and 93% of the Republicans in their camp and getting about half again as many defectors. That is to say, getting 11 to 13% of Democrats to defect, and he's got some work to do in getting that done. But I'll tell you this, John, I did not think that her week would be as bad as it turned out to be. I thought it'd be bad, but that Inspector General report from State is absolutely devastating. All 4 major things that she's told us about the emails, that it was approved and permitted, that wasn't true. That there were no attempts at hacking, that turned out to be true. That she was going to cooperate totally and be completely transparent, that turned out not to be true. That there was no classified information that passed across those networks, that turned out not to be true. That Inspector General report, which is 83 pages long, is well worth reading for any political junkie. I put it up at my website because of it. It's just a jaw-droppingly savage indictment of the former Secretary of State from a Democrat appointee as Inspector General of the Department of State that she oversaw.
And we still don't know what the FBI is going to do.
That's right. And she loses the FBI primary. All her primary victories thus far won't matter. I think if it happens before, if she or people close to her get indicted before July 25th, the beginning of the Democratic Convention, there's going to be a lot of soul searching done by Democratic leaders as to whether they should go through with nominating.
What do you think about this dance that Donald Trump is doing with Bernie Sanders, suggesting that he might want to debate Sanders if the money is right and if the money goes to charity?
Yeah, well, look, he better be prepared to debate Sanders, because Sanders would love to be on the stage with him, and he's got 2.4 million donors who've contributed an average of $27 each to give him $212 million. The idea of his people coming up with $5 million for charitable, for a charity, and having Trump having to match it, that could happen, and we would see a debate in the next 10 days before June 7th, and Katie bar the door when that finishes.
But that obviously would not be good news for Hillary Clinton, because her 2 main competitors would be stealing the spotlight.
They would, and look, she's in a bad place. It's only 1 poll, but 1 poll that's from a pretty respected group, PPIC, showed the California race narrowing down to a 2-point race. Now, it really doesn't matter whether she wins or loses in terms of delegates. She is 78 delegates away from having the majority of the Democratic Convention, and they got 930 delegates yet to go. If she gets, let's say, 50% of them, that is over 465 delegates, and she will be, win and have a margin of 300 and some odd over Bernie Sanders, over the number needed to win. So, and 600 and some odd over Bernie Sanders. So she's got to be the Democratic nominee, but it sure would be a black eye if she ended up coming out of California with a loss rather than a victory.
Well, and as for Trump, he has moderated some of his early campaign proclamations. For instance, he seems to have backed away from the idea that you put a total ban on Muslims entering the U.S.
Yeah, he now says it's a suggestion, and he's showing flexibility on other things. This may be good, it may be bad. I think part of the reason that he has drawn support is that he has refused to bow to political correctness, and people think he's a strong guy, even if they don't necessarily agree with what he does. Now, I think it's probably smart to try and put these things in the rear view mirror, but let's wait a while and see how well that plays with the people up there. Again, as I said in that FoxNews.com piece, he consolidated the Republicans, but the other key element is that independents have moved towards him. In all four of those polls, he has made significant movement among independents. He led among independents in 3 out of 4 of the national polls the week before and was tied in the final one, CBS, New York Times. But that group this year is particularly volatile, and this may be just a little bit of, hey, I like him now because he seems to have become the Republican nominee. The question is, what do they do when she consolidates? And people say, well, all the contests are over. She's got the majority. She looks like she's going to be the nominee. Does she enjoy a similar movement, consolidation among Republicans, and does she grab some of those independents back?
Well, let's see what your column says on Monday. You've got a tradition to uphold. See if you're spot on with your predictions once again.
Great. Thank you, sir.
Karl Rove, writing in FoxNews.com every Monday. Thanks, Karl.